I'm really going to do different individual plants during this seed starting series, but there's so many questions that we're going to just go ahead and do it. Why not? What else? What do we got to lose, right? So what we're going to do is, as it gets into the season for these seeds to go in or what have you, to get started, then we're going to talk about them. And today it's really going to be all about onions and garlic. More so garlic, but I'm going to lump them together because they really are very similar and they go in right about the same time. Out here yesterday preparing where my garlic's going to go, and I told you in the previous video that we do have some rutabagas growing, so I was like, let me clear up around it. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I planted a parsnip. This was the parsnip bed originally, and that failed. But look, we have one parsnip growing, so we're gonna let it grow, and we're gonna enjoy one individual parsnip. I can't believe the seeds stayed dormant all this time and then started to grow right under my face. I didn't even know it, but sometimes you get a little surprise. What can I say? But welcome back to Sandy Bottom Homestead, everybody. Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. For the sake of this conversation, it is very important that you realize that I am in coastal North Carolina, and we do not get excessively cold here. And that's going to be a big driver for this conversation. So I'm going to lump garlic and onions together, and I'm going to start with garlic, and then I'll get into onions. And there's a reason why I'm starting with garlic. So garlic is direct sown, and really all we need to do is this one back row here of garlic. And what we'll do is we will do a double row of garlic. Now I've been planting, I guess it's now 3 years ago, I got a grocery store bowl of garlic, started it, had a crappy harvest, not a crappy, but just wasn't great. The bulbs didn't get really big. Saved the best bulbs, replanted, and then the next year they got bigger and bigger. So we're really happy with the way that's working out. We now have our own stock of garlic that we do. I just got tired of fighting, and because we have to plant so late, that there was never garlic available. And the prices of garlic bulbs are just outrageous for what it is. I mean, come on, man, it's a piece of garlic, right? So $5 and we were good. We're good to go. But because I'm in coastal North Carolina, because of our weather, we can do about roughly 3.5 season gardening, if not 4 season. There is a little bit of a hiccup there. We do have to prep our garlic to plant, and we have to plant at the right time. So like I said, we're slowly clearing out this row here and just emptying this bed. We're looking to see what seeds actually germinated, and we're gonna leave them and harvest them. But we really want this one row to be cleared. Now we grow soft neck garlic here. A lot of people in the South will grow elephant garlic because it does not need a chill period. Garlic needs a chill period typically. So what that means is you need a certain amount of days, and I don't remember, I think it may be like 20 or 30 days below 40 degrees. We're just not going to get that here. So what we do is I have taken my garlic and I've just stuck it in the refrigerator, and it is pre-chilling at this point. It's been in there for 2 weeks, and we'll just leave it in there until it's done, ready to plant. And we don't really put a time on it or anything like that. We just put it in there for a couple weeks. And what that does is it's like an insurance policy against our chill period. So that will give us some sort of chill period, at least a jump on it, and then whatever we can add afterwards will really help. And that seems to have helped us a lot. And that's for our soft neck garlic that we do. Elephant garlic, not so much. Hard neck garlic is more of northern tiers, and the big difference is we don't get garlic scapes, which I've had those before. That wasn't a big deal to me. It wasn't really anything I was overly concerned about. So, but it's not time for me to plant them yet. I've still got a month or more, and those those bulbs will just sit in there until they're ready. As far as getting the ground ready, super easy. Weed it, cultivate it, fertilize it, plant it, mulch it, leave it. Always put my pre-planting fertilizer down, no matter what. It goes in the ground, because what that does is it just starts giving it nutrients. Again, we're using an organic fertilizer, so it's really slow to release in the winter time, so we're not overly concerned about it, and then we'll come back and fertilize as needed. A couple things to be aware of. We don't plant our garlic until after, and usually well after, our first frost. So we're not even rushing for it. It's the last thing to go into the garden. So we're just gonna let it ride. And then once we start getting frosts, we'll still get warm days and warmer nights, but once we start getting the frost and the ground's kind of chilled, then we'll put our garlic in. Then we'll put our pre-planting fertilizer down, just whatever you normally use, nothing crazy, and then add to it. So one thing to note about garlic is you don't want to give it a lot of nitrogen, so don't give it anything extra. You know, you want to give it some, but you don't want to give it extra. So just don't do that, because what you'll end up with is beautiful tops and no bulb, and who cares about the greens, right? We just want the bulbs. What I'll end up doing is I'll make my double row. Yeah, the soil's kind of moist for as dry as it's been. And then we'll stack our mulch on top, and we want to stack it pretty deep. So we'll probably stack it about yay high with mulch. And what that'll do is that'll insulate the ground. It'll help keep the moisture in, and it'll help keep it a little bit cooler. Remember, we don't get excessively cool here, so we have to kind of work to keep the ground a little bit cooler at times. Overall, through the winter, it's not that much of an issue, but again, it's just another insurance policy. So we'll do that, and we'll stack that on top, and then that'll give it everything it needs to go through. Now, be aware, if you get some warm days, your garlic's going to sprout, and you're going to see it coming out of the ground. It's not really anything to worry about unless it gets frigid. And I mean frigid. A number to be concerned about as far as temperature, because I know somebody's going to ask, I would say anything below 20 would be a worry. Throw a cover over it, something like that. But you want to make sure that you take that cover back off. So we take that cover off, and I rarely, if ever, cover my garlic, but you're gonna see it sprout, and it's okay for it to sprout, because that's what it does. And by spring, you're gonna have nice big plants in your garden. So just keep that on your radar, and just keep in that timing with it. Your zone doesn't matter, it's your frost date that matters. So know your frost dates, and then just kind of plant accordingly. And you want to plant them pointy side up, probably 2-3 inches deep, something like that. It's really easy, it's not that big a deal. I just take it and push it down and then call it good. Like it's really not that big a deal to plant garlic. It's one of the, if not the easiest plant, because you plant it last and you just let it grow. You don't do anything. You don't trim it, you don't move it, you just harvest it. It's great. Typically in that same bed we would plant our onions. I'm not planting onions this year. I mentioned it in a previous video. It's just not really, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me, so I'm going to not grow onions this year. If I possibly do, I may plant a row. But to be honest, I'm already late getting my seeds started, and I'm not overly concerned about it. The only reason why I may plant some seeds is because, excuse me, I believe I have some seeds left over. So what I grow is I grow short day onions. So onions, you can look, if you go online and you Google onion growing map, or just something simple like that, it'll tell you, you'll get a map, very visual, of short day, intermediate day, and long day onions. Onions bulb based on the amount of sun that they're getting, the length of the day. So we have to grow, technically we could grow intermediate day, but I grow short day onions just because it's easier, and those are usually the sweeter types like the Vidalias. They're not as pungent flavored, but they are delicious. So we would grow those. But basically what you want to do, especially if you're growing short day, is it's almost too late to plant them. But I have started them and planted them right on January 1st many times. I've stuck them in the ground. And the thing about onions is you can put 15-20 seeds in a seed cell. So a 6-pack could plant, 100 onions. And when they go, and they start sprouting and you get ready to plant them, you can just pull them apart because the roots are very strong. You have to tease them a little bit, but they're really strong. Use this weed here as an example. Here are my radishes, by the way, they're looking nice. Let's use this weed right here. So, you know, an onion looks similar to this. When it gets to be about this high in your seed cell, you want to clip it. You want to give it a haircut. So what we would do, and I don't have my scissors with me, but just pretend I do, we would just cut them, just like that. And then they'll grow, and then you cut, and then you grow and cut and grow and cut. Typically, I call it giving it a haircut. I typically give it 3 to 4 haircuts while it's in the seed tray. And so each time they'll look like this, and the base of the plant will continue to plumpen up, and the greenery will get thicker, but that way you can kind of control a little bit, and it's forcing the energy back into the onion. And so it's very standard to do that. And so what we would do is we would just have our whole tray, and then we would just cut just like that. And the farms, they have machines like handheld trimmers that they just all the way down. You can save those cuttings, use them, put them on a baked potato, whatever. It's kind of like a chive, has that onion flavor. So you definitely want to take it, and then with your scissors, not your fingers, your scissors, make sure you understand that. I don't have scissors in my hand right now. And you would just like that. So now that I've done that, let me get this weed out. This weed has been horrible. It spreads via rhizome, so this doesn't do anything. You have to get the root, and the root spreads across. Like all of these, I digress very quickly. Misnomer about onions is you want to, a lot of people think that you plant them for short day onions in the spring. That's not really the case. Now, long day onions, you would plant closer to spring, almost like normal. Definitely want to follow the directions on the seed packet, but starting them is the same way. And I can't stress enough that you can pack a lot into a seed cell. So we started last year, I think I started in a 144 seed cell tray, and out of that 144 tray, we got 400 seedlings, and we did that 5 times over, and we sold them. So you can see, and every time you just tease them apart. Those roots, they don't really break, so they're pretty easy, and you just want to give them lots of water and lots of nitrogen. So you want to give them nitrogen continuously until they start to bulb, and then you stop the nitrogen and let them finish. And as far as haircuts go, once you get them in the ground, do not cut the greens anymore. Do not cut the greens anymore. Do not cut the greens anymore. Keep your hands off of them, keep them weeded, and grow them. And you're gonna get onions. This bed last winter was garlic in the back, onions in the front. And out of this one bed, we put 100 onions and 50 garlics in. And we had more than enough onions, and the garlic's going strong. We'll probably have a couple leftovers within, you know, by the end of summer, we'll probably be tossing a couple out. You know, once we get the fresh stuff in, we just kind of rotate it out. It's not a big deal. But this one bed right here, which is a 4-foot by 8-foot bed, gave us 100 onions out of here. So we plant them super close. Garlic goes about 4 inches apart, and depending on the onion, if you have like a bigger onion, like a Vidalia or something, you put those about 4 inches apart. You could put other ones about 3, but you can really pack them in tight, and you need to pack them in tight, because what ends up happening when you direct sow, or not direct sow, but when you plant in the ground in the winter time, is you start to get winter weeds. So like this is a winter weed right here. So we'll get stuff like this that grows. It doesn't grow really in the summertime, but you get a whole new crop of weeds that'll grow. So you want to stay on top of it, and you want to make sure that they don't hinder the growth of the onions at all and start robbing the nutrients from the soil. So like all of these little grasses here that I have to keep pulling out over and over, and I will get on top of them. They will go away, don't you worry about that. They will rob the nutrients from the soil. And so we want to keep on top of it and keep it going. Look at that, radish. So we'll be eating a radish soon. I'll let it get a little bit bigger. But that's really the key, is keeping it weeded, keeping the nutrients flowing to it. And the trick with putting garlic and onions in the same bed is the garlic doesn't really need the same nitrogen requirement. So you want to stay on top of it and just make sure that you're separating it. And the way that you can do that is you can give the onions some granular nitrogen, and then the garlic, not, you don't give any of the granular. And then my injection feedings would just kind of across the board feed, not that big a deal, but you just don't want to really push the nitrogen to the garlic. I know it's a little early. Typically in this series I had envisioned like actually starting the seed and then talking about it. The reason why I wanted to do it early is just because of that chill period for the garlic. It really does help tremendously. And as far as the onions go, look, we're not growing them because honestly we just kind of grew too many. We didn't eat them. It was kind of not worth all the work that we had to do, especially like the drying afterwards and stuff. And what I really want to focus on is leaving portions of my beds empty so that they can recover. So eliminating that crop for this year is not really that big a deal, but I recommend that people grow onions just to see them grow and to try it. But do yourself a favor, don't grow 1 or 2 of either of these. Fill it up. Go do a whole row, multiple rows, especially for the onions, and really get a bountiful harvest off of it, because it grows. And if you plant your short day onions now, you'll be harvesting them probably around, well, really they harvest the same time as garlic. So right around late May and early June is when we're harvesting them. Long day onions are different. They will be harvested later into the season, so you'll be able to grow those, and they will take up the bed for the majority of the season. For us, it kind of comes out at an awkward time, and that's another reason why we kind of backed away from it. So if you've grown garlic or you've grown onions, let us know in the comments below what you've done. Ooh, that bee just about got me. And let us know what varieties you've grown and how you did. Would love to hear it. But yeah, onions and garlic are the last thing to go in, but they're not the first thing to come out. And that's the problem.